Hey, everybody, I'm your host, Felipe and Sean, and you're listening to the Total Basis podcast on a Sunday afternoon. This time around, not morning, as we have a special time because we have a special guest. We wanted to give our guest enough time to be up and at it and ready and awake. Although every weekend, our guy Austin, who's from, we've just found out, is from a remote location in California. He is always tuning in every weekend, up and at it. So I do appreciate it, but hopefully this late start is more accommodating to you. Austin, say hello to everybody over there.
What's going on, guys? Hello from California. Yeah, it is pretty remote, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And for those who don't know what Austin looks like, we just realized that he looks like Cole Calhoun.
So yeah, if you need a picture in your head for the show, just pull up the nearest picture of Cole Calhoun that you probably have laying on your desk somewhere. I know that's what normal people do. And just be like, when you hear Austin's voice, just think Cole Calhoun.
I got an Angels jersey on, so I could be Cole Calhoun today.
Yeah, man. You were out there so in support of Mike Trout not winning World Series over there. Anyway, that's the Mike Trout joke. But yeah, actually, we will talk about the Angels. We will talk about Mike Trout.
That argument is so fallacious.
And I already got him triggered. That's fantastic. We're off to a great start. But anyway, Austin, all jokes aside, thank you for coming on. Like I said, you're one of the more active members over on our Baseball Life Facebook group, which I just deemed it to be the best baseball group on Facebook ever. So you are a part of that. So I do appreciate you tuning in and joining us to talk about the Angels and, of course, it's the Oakland Athletics, the Boston Red Sox, the Baltimore Orioles, the LA Dodgers, and the St. Louis Cardinals. So before we move on, Sean, how are you doing this afternoon? How was your thing on over at the
It was awesome. Yeah. It was, I think, streamed to multiple places, but it was awesome. Check it out on my Twitter, at Sean Flannery 13. I shared a bunch of links about it. We talked about 3 pitchers that we were fading this year. And, of course, the first one I had up was Walker Buehler, and the 2 guys before me, the first pitcher they mentioned was also Walker Buehler, so I was scrambling at the last second to try and find something that they didn't bring up about Walker Buehler. Second one was Jose Barrios. I got grilled about that because they're like, oh, he's probably he's going to throw 180 innings. He's going to be great. And I'm like, he's never been great. I said, I'd much rather have please Zach Hendricks, Zach Wheeler, and there was one other person that was right around where he was going in ADP. And then third one was an Angels player who is on one of our lineups today, Ryzelle Iglesias.
Oh.
And that was and it had nothing to do with the numbers because numbers-wise, Iglesias looks great. It's just this gut feeling I have that there hasn't been a good reliever in LA for the Angels, at least. Like, I looked back at their last decade of relievers, and the best RP season they've had in the last decade was Hansel Robles' 2019 in terms of Fangraph score. They've only had 3 pitchers have a 25-plus save season, and I'll share those names later just because it was hilarious how far I had to go back in the last decade of those 3. But, yeah, it was fun. Lots of fun. I think they had raised a little over $5,000 when we left. So
nice.
All going to Mental Health America. There's still time to donate. Like I said, check out my post in Baseball Life or on Twitter. Both the payment informations are there, and a lot of fun. And I'm wearing the TFGBI shirt.
Tell the folks what that stands for, Sean, for those who don't know.
The Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. It's hosted by Justin Mason, who is also hosting this Potapalooza. So this was in preparation. The draft is tomorrow. I'm at pick 112. So that should be fun. I either wanted 1 through 4 because you can set your preference. I wanted 1 through 4 or 15, 14, 13, 12. And I ended up getting 12. So
nice.
Hopefully Jose Ramirez is there, right?
You always get Jose Ramirez.
Yeah,
Jose Ramirez magnet over there.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ryzelle Iglesias. We are doing our last of the Build a Lineup series, and we always, if you guys haven't noticed, we've been bringing in a fan of some of these teams to join us, and especially people who play fantasy baseball. Austin admitted to us last year, or at least to me, that he's never played fantasy baseball before, and he was nice enough to do the newbie league with us, which he almost won, but he ran into a juggernaut in Felipe Iglesias. So
it's almost not even fair.
It's not even fair. So, but no Ryzelle Iglesias on our team. So none of us, not even the Angels fans, trust him. I don't see him anywhere.
I thought he went off the board.
No,
okay.
no. Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
He's got to go. He's got to go through and change one of his picks again, Felipe. Hold on.
Oh boy. No, go ahead, Austin. What are you gonna say? I think we lost them.
Oh, you cut out Austin. Nope. You there?
Well, let's
keep continue on.
We do have Jose Iglesias.
Yeah,
though.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you now. What were you going to say over there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of breaking in and out, though. That's the problem.
No,
I'm sorry, Austin. You're breaking up too much here. Give yourself a little time there to get your internet connection up and running again. In the meantime, Sean, if you want, we could just move on and get going. You do have the first pick this time around,
yes.
Followed by me, and then followed by Austin. And
I am going to invite him back. Just continue, Felipe.
Yeah, and you have Cody Bellinger, who does qualify at first base, especially we're going to use CBS Sports rules about having to play 10 games.
I think he played 19 at first base, which was kind of shocking to me.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I mean, the Dodgers, they're going to just flip everybody over here and there and everywhere. They're going to find room for you to play multiple positions. So Bellinger does qualify at first base, whether you, if you're using the old rules of 20 games or more, then you are out of luck. But if you're doing the CBS model, then you're in luck because he did play more than 10 games at first base. So he qualifies at first base. A slam dunk right there. There's no brainer, right, Sean?
Yeah. That's why I picked him. I was like, okay, I had to go double check and make sure he actually did have first base eligibility. And then obviously when you see that he does, I mean, he had the down season, but much like Carlos Correa, they were just they never got going in the regular season. But then when the playoffs came through, they were, revved up, ready to go.
And Sean, I ask you, are you concerned at all about his separated shoulder or if he's...
No, okay. I think he's going to be good to go. And if there is any sort of lingering issue that he has to work back from, they have the depth to where, they can take him out of the outfield, put him at first base, rest the arm. That way he doesn't have to throw so much. And they can move him around. They can sit him for a couple of games, which isn't good for fantasy, but, it can happen.
All right, Austin, say a couple of words, say a couple of syllables there.
You guys got me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Much better.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about Ryzelle Iglesias, and then you came up to say something, and then you broke up. What were you going to say over there?
Well, there were a couple things I wanted to say. First of all, let me talk about this newbie league. All right. So this newbie league, I had a pretty good lineup. I mean,
So did I.
I beat Felipe in the first week, and then we made the playoffs, and we tied, and I lost to home field advantage. But when you
did you really?
Yeah,
Felipe, this sounds like collusion.
Home field advantage, but when you look at the next week, I scored more points than anybody else. So, I got third, but home field advantage killed me.
Those do suck. That does suck. I didn't realize that's how it broke for you.
You know how it goes, man. You don't let the championship bouts go to the judges. You don't let if you want to win, you gotta be convincing in your victories. So ties don't get you over the top, brother. So that's why. Hey, listen, I don't get home field advantage if I don't win all those games in the regular season, right? So every win counts. Okay. Yeah. Better luck next year.
And then,
as he says, as the fantasy quote unquote expert to a newbie in the newbie league, he's like just prancing all over him. Like, come on, Felipe.
Hey, you got to play by the rules, man. Those are the rules. Everybody knew what the rules were. We all agreed to them.
One bite, everybody knows the rules.
Yeah. and then
go ahead.
And then just to comment on Ryzelle Iglesias. As an Angel fan, I'm actually kind of excited about Ryzelle Iglesias. But I mean, Sean, you were right. Our bullpen is awful. Angels bullpen is
it just terrible. Has been for like the last 10 years, and it's
and we'll take Hansel Robles as a example here. The relievers are really good at having one good or maybe one decent year, and then they implode, and you never hear from them ever again. Even the starters.
Relief pitching in a nutshell.
Yeah. And then even the Angels starters like Garrett Richards and Matt Shoemaker and, where did they go? All of a sudden they're in the back end of rotations.
Garrett Richards. He is pretty wretched. Garrett Richards is in my lineup. Thank you very much. I have been on that hype train all off season.
I was actually very surprised that you picked him. He's got really good curveball spin, but he hasn't been able to put it back together since his Cy Young SU with the Angels.
Absolutely love him. I loved him even when he was in San Diego last year. And there's a reason where I even like him more this year, even though he's in the American League East, which is just bad for pitchers. But we'll talk about it when we get there. So
it's interesting because Matt Shoemaker and Garrett Richards are always they were guys in the mid 2010s. Look, I'm talking about the 2010s like they were like decades ago, but yeah, in the mid 2010s, there were guys those were the two guys from the Angels that I always try to get at the back end of drafts, and they always bit me in the ass because they could never stay healthy. So, and now they're just in the back end of rotations, like Austin was saying. So, but it's always intriguing to look at a Matt Shoemaker and a Garrett Richards because, you always wonder, is this the year? But like Sean says, we'll talk about that when we get down to the pitchers over here. Right now, we're over here. Matt Olsen, who is another one of those guys that I really, really like. He just, the sound of the bat when he makes contact with the ball, it just sounds different. It's raw power. The only thing I don't like is that he plays in Oakland, and I think that might be part of the frustration that many people have with him is that I think well, 2020 was just a weird year for everybody, but I think in this regard, playing in Oakland does him no favors. I mean, he has the power to kind of supply and give a productive season, but everybody gets hurt by the cavernous ballpark that is the Oakland Coliseum. But other than that, when he's on his A game, exit velocity is there, the hard hit rate is there, and you can't ask for better than Matt Olsen, I don't think.
I do want to mention, just because it ties in both to my appearance on the Potapalooza, one of the guys on the panel, his name's Carlos Marcano. Check him out on Twitter. He does a little bit of work for Pitchers List, does a little bit of everything. But he put out an article a couple months ago that introduced this new kind of analytic statistic that he was just calling Q. And it was combining both what dynamic hard hit rate, which I can't really remember the exact definition, but it's a variance of, hard hit percentage. He combined that with standard deviation of launch angle. How tight the launch angle has been tied to higher BABIPs, higher expected batting averages, and just higher batting averages overall. And he combined those two for this one statistic. And one of the best guys at it was Matt Olsen, which is kind of shocking. But I just wanted to give him a quick little shout out because that was a really awesome piece that he did. And I got to talk to him today on the panel. So
nice. And then from there, we move to Max Muncie as Austin goes with a Dodger here, kind of surprising me and everybody else. Obviously, there's a lot to like about Max Muncie, right, Austin?
There is a lot to like about Max Muncie. I think why I picked him, really, I wanted to go with Bellinger, but I had a feeling Sean was going to pick Bellinger first. But what I like about him is, one, he gets on base. Even if he's got a low, like last year, he had a low batting average. I believe it was in the 190s, but he still had a pretty high batting average. He gets on base really well, and his all the different positions he plays. So he's eligible for first base, second base, and I believe third base as well. So in a fantasy lineup, you can plug him in. You can plug him in all over the infield, and even if he's not playing there, and you can still get some pretty good points out of it. And getting on base. Getting on base, you can get runs, you can, all kinds of different points. If you're striking out all the time, you're not scoring any points. So I liked Max Muncie at first base.
I do too.
And then you went ahead and came back with David Fletcher, the slappiest, most slap happy hitter of all time. But you obviously a homer pick here. But other than that, being a homer pick, what else do you like about David Fletcher at second base?
David Fletcher, it's kind of the same thing as Max Muncie. He gets on base. He is not a power hitter by any means. When you look at his Baseball Savant page, he does not have very high exit velocity. He doesn't have, he's a very slap happy hitter, but he will get on base. And I think he's a very, very underrated second baseman. He is a good second baseman, offensively and defensively. You can look back at the 2020 highlights and watch that unbelievable throw that he made from deep in shortstop off his back leg, turned around, not even looking. And he made the out, which I believe he threw out Mookie Betts, if I remember correctly.
Oh, wow.
I think he's a very underrated second baseman. And I had him last year on a couple of my teams, and he made pretty good contributions. So I like David Fletcher at second base. And when I was comparing him to the rest of the second basemen, I didn't really like any of the other second basemen compared to David Fletcher. So
yeah, second base was kind of weak here.
Really weak.
Yeah, I liked my pick, but to kind of round out what he was saying about David Fletcher is a guy that in most leagues, he's going to maybe fill in at MI. I think he's expected to play shortstop this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Austin. But I feel like, if anything, they're going to move him to shortstop and put the older Iglesias at second base. Either way, they're both premium defenders.
Yeah, right now Roster Resource has him at second, but I mean he can play short, and I think he could do a really good short. I would agree with you. I think we switch.
Yeah, just because he's a little bit younger, and Iglesias the glove is going down, even though he was once a perennial Gold Glove guy. But yeah, like you said, he is. Felipe said the slappiest of slappiest. And you mentioned, him having very low exit velocities, but he also goes into that category of guys where he was in the 4th percentile in exit velocity and 1st percentile in hard hit rate, but 90th percentile expected batting average, 98th K percentage, and 100th in whiff percentage. So when he's swinging the bat, he's making contact, and he's never seen a pitch that he doesn't like. He had that one against Oakland last year in 2019 where he literally jumped to try and hit it, and he's like 5'5", so it looked really funny. But it'll be interesting for sure. He's Nick Madrigal without the stolen bases, in my opinion. I think in terms of fantasy, he's going to give you a really high batting average. The on base could go either way. He's not going to hit for a lot of power, and he's just going to be kind of empty average with a lot of runs, depending on where he bats in the lineup. But he's, like I said, Nick Madrigal without the stolen bases.
It's too much time talking about David Fletcher.
Hey, I love David Fletcher.
I know you do. It's like every week. It's a David Fletcher, Nick Madrigal. It's like these tiny, diminutive second basemen that we always talk about. It's really name me players. I'm well, maybe Madrigal, but name me players that I'm not interested in drafting is what it really boils down to. As
you don't want a 320 hitter on your team?
No. I mean, is that all he's? Wait, hold on. Is that all he's doing? Because I see that he's projected to hit a 368 slugging percentage. Like, I don't think so. Because I counter with, I was happy when he took David Fletcher, which means I get my guy Gavin Lux, which is a guy I've been really keeping an eye on. The only problem is he plays with the Dodgers, where they'll play everybody and they'll play him all over the place, and the playing time's not going to be there. But if the playing time is there, this is a guy who's projected to get a 436 slugging percentage, which at second base is pretty damn good. He's supposed to get some power. He's very good at limiting strikeouts, so you're getting that as well. The only thing I don't like is the playing time issues with the Dodgers, but the upside is just off the charts. He's still listed as a 70 future value according to Fangraphs, with the big time power, decent hit tool at this point of his life, of his career. He's 23 years old only. So like I said, if he could just find a way to topple Chris Taylor at second base, I see that Austin did pick him here, but if he could just find a way to just knock him out of his starting perch, I think Gavin Lux is going to be a very satisfying pick for a lot of people here. And then you went with Tommy Edman, who can supply not just stolen bases but a little bit of power as well. Is that how you see it there, Sean?
Yeah, and I think he's going to be a very valuable player just because, one, of how rare stolen bases are. And he went 15 for 16 in 2019. And then in 2020, he only went 2 for 6. But I was reading an article on Fangraphs from, I believe, Paul Sporer, and he actually went down and he broke down all 4 of his caught stealings. And 2 of them were against Christian Vasquez and Roberto Perez, 2 of the best, catchers against stolen bases. One was on a pickoff, and the other was on just like this crazy tag play made. And I think he's going to be a guy who is elite at stealing bases, and still 95th percentile or greater in sprint speed. Has supplied more power than you would think, but the real value comes, he literally will play everywhere. And I think he's eligible at shortstop this year in a lot of leagues after he took over for Paul DeYoung. So I like the versatility. I like the steals. I like the power. I like the batting average floor. I think he's going to be a really good fantasy asset.
And then you went with Corey Seager, which is another slam dunk Dodgers pick after your Cody Bellinger pick. Corey Seager, is there? We all know what Corey Seager can do. Is there any weaknesses that you are worried about coming into a 2021 season?
Not at all. I think he was.
Come on, everybody has a weakness. Come on.
No, I think he was the most underrated hitter in baseball all of 2020. I know it was a shortened season, But I mean, you look at his savant sliders, he's 95th percentile or greater in exit velo, hard hit percentage, expected WOBA, expected batting average, expected slugging, and most importantly, barrel percentage. All of this done with a strikeout percentage of only 16%.
That's pretty damn good.
And I mean, he did walk a little less, so this lends me to believe that he was being more aggressive. He's posted the highest exit velo numbers of his career. That leads me to believe that maybe he's getting more and more healthy as he recovers from both the hip and the Tommy John. He's only 26. Both him and Correa are going to be free agents. I think Seeger is going to have a breakout year. I don't think the Dodgers are going to keep him because of the guy you picked, Gavin Lux.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at a 26-year-old Carlos Seeger posting career highs and important stats, and he's in a contract year. So that's like a win-win-win.
Since Sean did not have the guts to say it, I'm just going to say it. Stolen bases, man. Lack of stolen bases. That's his weakness. You could have just said that, Sean.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about stolen bases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no.
But that's why I have Tommy Edman. That's why I have Tommy Edman.
Yeah, of course. Interesting story, though. Sometime in around 2015 or around 2017, around there, I had a tough choice to make between Corey Seager and Xander Bogaerts, and I went with Corey Seager, and then Corey Seager gets Tommy John surgery. So, but in this exercise, I couldn't be happier getting the consolation prize in Xander Bogaerts. He's as steady as it comes at shortstop. He's finally putting things together. Another superb year last year. Not Corey Seager-like superb, but superb nonetheless. And he's going to be a very bright spot for a struggling Red Sox team. The only concern I have for him is that his hard hit rates aren't as high as I want him to be. But, Green Monster, do you really need to have a really high hard hit rate? Bounce it off the wall, get the cheap doubles. That's 2 points in fantasy points leagues right there. And he limits strikeouts, maybe not at 16%, but 18% last year. 17.9 according to the Bat X projections. 18.2 career. That's pretty damn solid. Nearly a 10% walk rate. A lot to like here. So I'm happy with that pick. And then, unfortunately, Austin gets Paul DeJong, who, no offense to Paul DeJong, I just never know what to expect from him. Because I've had him a couple of years ago, and he was just killing it, looked like a top 10 shortstop, and then a big second half dip. And I've been off of him ever since. But what do you like about Paul DeJong there, Austin?
So, I mean, when it came to this exercise, the two that come to mind with these teams is Corey Seager and Xander Bogaerts. Those are the two. But after that, you have the Angels. They have Jose Iglesias. The Orioles, they have Freddie Galvis. And the Cards had DeJong, and then the A's had Elvis Andrus. So there really wasn't much to really pick from here. I definitely was not going to go for Elvis Andrus. I was not a fan. I thought about Freddie Galvis, but then I started looking more at his baseball savant page, and I felt like Paul DeJong was a little bit of a better offensive shortstop than Freddie Galvis was. Freddie Galvis, is more below average, and Paul DeJong is more league average.
Yeah,
he's got some pop when he's on the field, but I think his biggest problem is he's got some injury problems, and he's not consistent. So you're right, he's a mixed bag. You never know what you're going to get out of Paul DeJong. You might get a top 10 shortstop in Paul DeJong, or you have some just a warm body who's still in shortstop.
Hey, here's something good news for you. He is projected to get 644 plate appearances, and sometimes half the battle is just showing up in fantasy baseball, right? So,
as Felipe loves to remind us.
Yeah, I mean, that's half the battle right there. Hey, plate appearances sometimes equal to fantasy points. Yeah. Think about that. Anyway, Anthony Rendon, that's a slam dunk for you. Finally, a surefire, that's as good as it gets at third base for you. Say something. It's another homer pick that is actually not that big of a homer pick, because he is the best third baseman on this list.
Can we talk about the?
I knew you guys were going to bring that up.
I told you.
I forgot all about it.
Yeah. Okay. Right, so Felipe forgot. That can be his team name next week. Is Forgetful Felipe.
There are no teams next week. We're done.
No. For next year then. But yeah. So I believe that Austin had picked Matt Chapman. I
saw that too.
Supposition here. I don't know anything. And then Felipe picked Nolan Arenado. And I said to them in our little chat that we had going this week, I said, thank you so much for leaving me the best third baseman in baseball. And then Austin says, oh, yeah, I had to take Anthony Rendon. And I'm like, wait, what? I said, I just saw this. He did not have Anthony Rendon. And then I went and double looked, and Matt Chapman had magically turned into Anthony Rendon, because I was shocked that the Angels fan didn't pick Anthony Rendon. Maybe it was just a slip of the mind. Who knows?
Well, I mean,
but,
he says he never let go of the checker, so he was playing checker rules. So
I told him that he would be allowed to have Anthony Rendon as long as I dunked on him on the episode. I ended up getting Matt Chapman. I love Matt Chapman anyway. But so we had some magical stuff going on in the lineup this week. You got to watch your lineups.
You're not clean either, there, Sean.
I was gonna say, I mean, unlike the other positions, third base is pretty stacked. I think this is the most stacked list of third basemen we could choose from. Loaded. Yeah, and then we missed out on Rafael Devers, as you guys could see, but then I was able to get him as my corner infield. That's how deep third base was this week. So, but Anthony Rendon, I guess I'll ask you the same question I tried to ask Sean. Do you find any weaknesses or concerns for Anthony Rendon at all?
Well, Anthony Rendon, I mean, he's got a great glove. He's got a great bat. He's a top 10 player in the MLB, according to MLB Network. Some people would probably argue that he's not, because he was number 8. But, I mean, I think he is. I think he's a top 10. But I think the thing is going to be injuries. He was injured last year. So as long as he can stay on the field, I really don't see – I mean, he doesn't run very fast. So if we're gonna stay with the theme, lack of stolen bases.
Yeah, I mean, stolen bases used to be part of his game. Like, he would chip in like 7 to 10 a year, but now I think that's just gone.
Yeah.
Well, and he's on the Angels, who don't steal. Yeah. So
because Mike Scioscia no longer manages. That's why. Duh.
Hey, Shohei Ohtani better steal some bases.
even with Mike Scioscia, Mike Trout's stolen base numbers went down as his career progressed. So
that's what happens when you turn into the best hitter in major leagues.
Yeah.
Who needs to run when you're hitting 40 bombs and 310 a year?
Yeah. So, but I think Rendon's biggest thing is going to be just to stay on the field. As long as he stays on the field.
Yeah, Rendon does have he started out his career as being injury-ridden in the minor leagues, so that's a very good point. Although he played 52 games out of 60, and he's been playing over about 140-ish games the last 4 or 5 years. So maybe that stigma is disappearing. But you're right; it's back of mind. He is entering his age 31 season. As well, so that's something to keep in mind of. But as long as he's healthy, man, this guy, I've always been a big fan of Anthony Rendon, and it's good that he got that big money that he deserved, and he is a premier hitter for sure.
Yeah, he posted an identical weighted runs created plus between 2019 walk year in Washington, where he was an MVP candidate, and in 2020. So even though it was an abbreviated sample size, it's interesting to see. Usually that first year is such a drawback of a big contract. And for Rendon, it really wasn't. Also, since 2018, he has the 5th highest WAR in all of baseball. So the Angels occupy 2 of those spots. Mike Trout 1 and Anthony Rendon 5. So things might be looking up for the Angels.
I got to ask you, Austin, you're an Angels fan, and that's always the hot topic in baseball life. And I'm pretty sure in all the baseball universe here, when is Mike Trout going to get that playoff glory? I guess not even World Series, just the playoff glory, right? And he's made the playoffs before, but what do you think is missing from this team to get them over the top? Because like Sean mentioned, you have 2 premier everyday hitters on that lineup already.
Pitching. I'm sorry.
Pitching for sure. Definitely pitching. I really think Artie Moreno and the Angels organization has missed out on getting some top premier pitchers. I'm happy that they got Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout. I know last year, with Anthony Rendon coming into the Angels, they had if you look at 2 players with their combined WAR, Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon were at the top. And then I believe it was Matt Chapman and
Matt Olsen?
It was Olsen and Chapman were second. But they were the highest combined WAR. They got a great offense, the top 10 offense. They can score a lot of runs, but they have no pitching. They have a bunch of 3, 4, 5 starters. And, as we've talked about, their relievers are not great. We have Ryzelle Iglesias, but we got to have somebody in between to get to Iglesias. And I just, with what they've got, I don't see it. So pitching, especially in the front end. And I think they really missed out, with the Zach Wheeler and the Madison Bumgarner and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I will comment that I'm probably in the minority of Angel fans that was actually happy that the Angels didn't get Garrett Cole, because I knew from the beginning he was going to cost way too much money, and Garrett Cole was one of those people. They're one ace away from winning the World Series, and they're not one ace away from winning.
I'll tell you what, man, that solves a lot of problems when you have that one ace at the top, at least for the first couple of years
until they get hurt.
Well, that's every pitcher.
And that's the thing is, the Angels pitching staff, they have a reputation of being hurt all the time. It's just a revolving door of pitchers. So, the key to their success is probably going to be pitching. And once they get the massive contract of Albert Pujols, and then they get Justin Upton off.
I was going to mention that. I was like, it's only like if they didn't have $50 million tied up in players that can barely play anymore.
Yeah, well, that's their habit too. I mean, they picked up Dexter Fowler this year. Dexter Fowler was hitting 220. So I mean, I know he's just a warm body to have Joe Adell, maybe heat up a little bit in AAA and then bring him up. But I mean, I don't know. I think the key to their success is going to be they got to pick up some pitching. They really do.
Man, and you mentioned Garrett Cole, and then they also missed out on Trevor Bauer, two guys from the area, Southern California. I think they both went to UCLA, and they couldn't get the home. I guess they live too far away from UCLA, maybe Orange County. But
I mean, from what I read was he was too expensive. So Artie Moreno was really animate on not going over that luxury tax threshold, and only 25 million under the luxury tax threshold. And that, I mean, we've seen it. That was too much, or that was too little for Trevor Bauer. So,
it seemed they were out on him from like essentially the get-go, which I thought was weird, but that matches up with what the luxury tax Moreno wanted to do. So,
all right. Well, let's move on to my pick, Nolan Aronado. I mean, kind of risky because we don't know what's going to happen outside of Coors Field. I know that people like to make fun of the fact that, he took advantage of being in Coors Field. The WRC plus was down at 76, but that could be for a thousand reasons why it was down last year. Ultimately, hitters like to hit in their home ballparks. So if Nolan Arenado is as good as people have been saying he is, even with the Coors Field effects, he'll get used to it. I mean, maybe it'll take him a couple of years, like Paul Goldschmidt. Took him a while, but it's a good situation to be a part of. I mean, you just mentioned Tommy Edman. He'll be setting the table for the Goldschmidts and the Arenados of the world. So, and he's still a premier defensive third baseman. So it was really hard to pass up on him. Plus, I thought that Matt Chapman was gone too. So, Sean, you got Matt Chapman.
I'm glad I'm not alone.
So I complained about Matt Olsen having to play in Oakland. Any concerns at all with Matt Chapman having to play in Oakland over there?
Not necessarily. He is the one guy when the Mets were looking at, possible upgrades, even before the Francisco Lindor trade. I didn't want to move any of the big, Matt Allen, Francisco Alvarez pieces for Francisco Lindor. And obviously they were able to get him without doing that. The one guy that I would have moved heaven and earth for was Matt Chapman. And that's because, one, he's hitting for insane amounts of power. Since 2018, he has 70 home runs. So even that gargantuan of a park isn't holding his power. And if you look at his baseball savant, you'll see why. He hits the ball insanely hard. I mean, posting extremely high exit velocities. Over the last 3 years, he's 8th in average exit velocity, which, obviously average isn't the biggest thing, but on fly balls and line drives, he's still up there in like the top 10, top 15. And then that's on top of the best defensive player probably in all of baseball. Like I said, you can't go wrong with him. He doesn't steal bases, and after major hip surgery, he's definitely not going to steal any bases. Right. The hip injury does worry me a little bit, but he's still young enough, so we'll see.
That dude has the widest ready stance on third base I have ever seen in my entire life. That dude covers almost the entire left side of the infield with his stance when he gets ready to throw the ball.
And then quickly, former defensive wizard Jose Iglesias, another slap-happy hitter. What value do you see him bringing to 2021 there, Sean?
Well, I believe he's going to probably bat in the lower part of the lineup for the Angels. I think what a lot of people don't realize is how good he was in the shortened 2020 season. Obviously, it was a small sample size, only 150 plate appearances, but he batted 373 with a 400 on base in a very un-Iglesias-like 556 slugging. That came with the highest expected batting average in all of baseball, an expected batting average of 358. So he was just, I mean, obviously he was in Baltimore too. That helped him. He doesn't whiff, doesn't strike out still. His expected slugging was actually higher, even though his exit velocity was still low, but up from previous years. I think he could be one of those good sources of batting average that you just throw in at a middle infield slot like I've done here.
And then I went with Kike Hernandez. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Austin.
Roster Resource has Iglesias batting 8th.
Yeah, that's he's going to be in the bottom third.
All right. Enrique Hernandez, he's going to be batting 9th according to Roster Resource for the Red Sox. Like you mentioned, this is middle infield as a whole for these 6 teams was just a real head scratcher. It made me want to yank my hair out. But Kike Hernandez was, I thought, if he's going to be starting second base for the Red Sox and have all this multiple eligibility, he was the way to go here. Has proven that he can hit for 15 plus home runs. Does a decent job of limiting strikeouts. I mean, you guys can tell I'm not very excited for this pick, but there was literally nothing because it was either that or Chris Taylor, and I'm still pissed at Chris Taylor for almost ruining one of my fantasy years one time, and I have never forgiven him for that. But and I'm pissed off that he exists because he's blocking Gavin Lux. So Austin, moving over to you, Chris Taylor, what redeemable qualities does he bring to the table?
I think he has some redeemable offensive qualities. He does get on base. I mean, he's not going to be a power threat. And he's, if I remember correctly, he doesn't really hit the ball all that hard, but he does get on base. And I think the benefit might be he does have multiple position eligibility, I believe. But I think with the outfield like the Dodgers have, I think he will mainly play second base. And I think maybe maybe having more of a stable position, playing maybe second base most of the time, it might boost his offensive numbers a little bit. And the fact that the Dodgers are a stacked offensive lineup, hitting is contagious. So, but yeah, the middle infield, it was really hard to try and pick one that would, out of this group anyway, that would contribute somewhat to fantasy lineup. I think Chris Taylor would probably be a late round pickup, but I mean, but I don't think he'll shock the world with anything.
Well, it was weak in middle infield, but as you are going to see, it was pretty deep in the corner infielders, and you still went with Garrett Walsh over some the other bigger names here. Give me a justifiable reason why you had to go with Garrett Walsh outside of the fact that you're an Angels fan. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, you guys are gonna notice that I have a lot of Angels. I tried not to pick a lot of Angels, and that didn't work. Man. So I will be honest. I forgot about Rafael Devers. I thought he was picked up.
I forget about him all the time too.
I thought he was picked up already. I would have picked him up if I had remembered him, but I totally forgot about him. But Jared Walsh, I'm actually really excited about. So Roster Resource actually has Jared Walsh batting second, which I think is a really weird placement for him because at the back end of last year at the 2020 season, I believe he was in the top 5 in average exit velocity. He was smashing the ball hard. He was hitting the ball hard. He only played about half of the 2020 season, I believe. I think he got
called up like end of August and just went on an absolute tear.
And he just mashed the entire time he was up there. I believe he hit 9 or 10 home runs. He was hitting the ball hard. There was a streak there, I believe. He had pretty good consecutive doubles or extra base hit streak. He was hitting the ball hard. And I think if he gets some consistent playing time, he may prove to be a pretty good little first baseman and a pretty good little replacement once they finally get rid of the Pujols contract. Pujols is too expensive for them not to play, so he's going to play one way or another, whether he's DH or first base. But I think if they give Jared Walsh a lot of playing time or pretty good playing time, I think he could produce pretty good.
Then I I did take advantage of the fact that Rafael Devers was available, so I picked him up. By the way, Sean, I guess you can agree with me on this one. Every single guest that we've had here, they've been pretty biased towards their own team in this little exercise here. So
I will defend Austin here. I think Jared Walsh was a great pickup. If you look at his 2018 season in Double-A, he posted a 158 weighted runs created plus, 290 average, 380 on base, slugging over 535 with a good walk rate, but a high strikeout rate, which was something we didn't see in the abbreviated 2020 season. In 2019, he hit 36 home runs in AAA, obviously in the PCL, so take it with a grain of salt. But 36 home runs in 98 games is nothing to slough at. He posted a 161 weighted runs created plus. And then in 2020, he posted a 153. So I'm not expecting him to be 153 over a full season, but I think he is an elite hitter. There's going to be a strikeout issue, though. If you just look at his minor league percentages, you see a trend, and those trends usually don't go down by 50% like they did in 2020. So expect some strikeout issues, but I think he's a legitimate power bat.
Well, the point was that all the guys that we brought in to be guests, they just couldn't help but be inclined to pick their favorite team, the players on their favorite teams. Jameis picked a lot of Rays players, although that was a special circumstance, whatever. Leon picked a lot of bullpen guys from the Washington Nationals. Who else is he? Jacob. He picked a lot of Mets players, including Edwin Diaz, Trevor May. And then last week, Ricky just was White Sox.
he was White Sox Central.
God bless him. All right. I didn't realize that.
When we get to pitchers, the Angels disappear for me. I only have one.
That's how you know he's an Angels fan. He wants nothing to do with Angels pitchers.
That's fine. I took advantage of that. Rafael Devers, remember when I was talking about how I used to have Corey Seager, Xander Bogaerts around the 2017 season? Rafael Devers was also in the mix. So I had a chance to get Bogaerts, Seager, and Devers, and that's the dynamic that is a keeper league in fantasy baseball, because young players will frustrate you. But Devers has a few seasons under his belt, 24 years old. These threats to always hit 30 home runs, career high exit velocity last year, I don't know if it's a career high, but for over 40% once again, and hard hit rate according to StatCast. A lot to like here about Rafael Devers. And really quick, I just realized that we're halfway through. We still got a lot of hitters to go through and a lot of the pitchers. So, Sean, quickly just tell me something nice about Paul Goldschmidt, I guess.
He's still really good, and he didn't hit the ball harder, but he had a higher line drive percentage. So, increase in batting average. Pitchers started respecting him more. The walk rate went up. I really like him. He's still age 33, which is that's when you start to see a fall off. But in front of Arenado, I think he's going to do really well.
That's what I was going to say. Arenado would be really good for him.
And then Will Smith, obviously you've been talking about him all off season long. And again, we talked about it last.
Dave Roberts did say it's not really a Austin Barnes isn't the backup. He's the 1B to Will Smith's 1A, which does make me worry.
No, I keep telling you, but nobody wants to listen to me. But you go ahead and take the part-timer. No, but aside from that, he was the only. We talked about this last week. He was the only top 10 catcher who was under 30 years old. So that's not a bad pick. I mean, it was the obvious pick there, I should say. But still, like you said, it's a concern that he has to share time. And not just that, but we also got the third catcher coming up for the Dodgers.
He could play third base if Justin Turner gets hurt, because Justin Turner always gets hurt. Will Smith could find himself playing third base and Austin Barnes behind the plate.
Now we're talking.
Now you get a catcher that's eligible and playing every day at another position. That's like the best thing in the world. It's Kiner Falefa made a living in fantasy the last 2 years by being catcher eligible, but never playing catcher.
The Ryan Domet route. I love it. Adley, I had a chance to get Sean Murphy, and I decided against it because, if I'm going to pick an Orioles player, because remember, every team has to be accounted for in all our lineups, I might as well get the number one catcher. And I know I broke my own rules, but sometimes some of these guys are too hard to pass up on. He may not make it to the show this year, but, a lot of us play in keeper leagues, so this is the guy to get. I think raw power's there, 65 future values, so you might as well roll the rice. Might as well roll the dice. You guys can tell I'm a little hungry here. Roll the dice on a young catcher like Adley Rutschman for the former number one pick overall, and then Sean Murphy. That's a decent pick right there. I like Sean Murphy. I guess Austin, it's your guy. Sean Murphy, what do you like about him the most?
He's a decent pickup out of this group. After Will Smith, the catching kind of fell off. But yeah, Sean Murphy is a decent pickup. He's a decent bat. I mean, I feel like he's a typical A's guy. He'll get on base. But I mean, he's, like I said, he's not going to shock the world with anything. And I'm kind of mad at Vasquez because I had Vasquez and he totally,
I could have told you that one.
And then the Orioles have Cisco and
Severino. Chance Cisco and Pedro Severino. And I had a chance to get those guys. And I'm like, nah, I'll just go for the upside guy.
Yeah,
the number one pick.
I didn't want to pick them up either. The Angels have Max Dassey and Kurt Suzuki. Max Dassey I almost picked up because he had a good season, but I don't trust one good season.
Suzuki's really good. If you're in a 2-catcher league, he's really good.
Suzuki would be a good pickup, but Stassi, I didn't trust it. He had one good season, but I don't. He had a good season last year, but I don't trust it. We'll wait and see if he's a good offensive.
It's a good pickup, man. Sean Murphy, you could like you said, you could have done a lot worse. Let's go to Mike Trout, Mookie Betts. I mean, come on. I mean, we really need to talk about these guys.
and of course, I knew that like it took forever for Felipe to pick Mookie Betts, but I knew he was going to pick Mookie Betts, and I'm just like, okay, here are the two outfielders I'm going with here. And I was shocked to really feel like that after those first two picks, outfield really did drop off a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like there was nothing there.
It was those two guys, and then you can tell by my next pick, Alex Verdugo, who I have high hopes for Alex Verdugo, but I think he's just a really flashy version of Nick Markakis with a little bit more power. I mean, what do you think about it? Good batting average, strong arm, good defense, Gold Glover. Going to hit more doubles than home runs and maybe steal 8 to 10 bases. He's literally a young Nick Markakis.
Yeah, the Red Sox just completely facelifted their outfield this offseason. They got Verdugo. I'm waiting for this thing to load up. Here we go. Verdugo, Frenchie Cordero, and Hunter Renfrow. Jesus Christ. Really quick, lightning round action here. Number one outfielder, Mike Trout or Mookie Betts? Go ahead, Austin. Tell me who your number one outfielder is.
Mike Trout.
I said lightning round. Hold on. Sean, who's your number one? Mookie Betts or Mike Trout?
Mike Trout.
All right.
Actually, Juan Soto. But
off this.
Mike Trout.
Okay. All right. That's moving on to Ramon Laureano. I don't know who. I honestly don't know. So, I don't know, because I feel like Mookie Betts can still get you some stolen bases, and in a Roto League, if that's what you're looking for, that's what you get. But I could be wrong. That's why I don't play Roto League.
But Trout's more consistent.
What's that?
I don't even think it's a consistency issue. I mean, if you need the stolen bases, then Mookie Betts is obviously the play. But I'm going to take Mike Trout. I know what I'm getting. And I know what I'm getting from Mookie too, but you don't know if they're going to let him run, where they're going to bat him in the lineup, et cetera. So,
and then Ramon Laureano, nice power speed combination there. You could do a lot worse. So, I mean, you didn't get the top big kahunas and Mookie Betts or Mike Trout, but with these two together, you got maybe one kahuna combined.
Maybe.
Yeah. Ramon Laureano, do you expect him to keep improving, or maybe are you just looking to?
I mean, he batted 288 in back-to-back years in 2018, 2019. He was going for that Chris Davis, where he has the same batting average 3 or 4 years in a row. But he decided he wanted to fight Alex Centrone, and just never really got going after that. I guess he spent all of his shots in that fight. Batted only 213, but 6 home runs, 2 stolen bases in a down year. I think he's got a good chance to rebound, and he might actually get him at a better price because he did have a down year.
All right. Well, moving on to Joe Adell. And this is the reason why I brought up the fact that Austin is an Angels fan. And like I brought up the other guys being their fans of the respective teams, because now it becomes predictable for me. If I don't get Joe Adell now, there's a good chance that he gets them. So I picked them up right here. I still believe in Joe Adell. I'm not a fan of that 41% strikeout rate, but the raw power is there. The future value is there. Like you guys mentioned, outfield, it's massive drop off and at outfield, so might as well go over to the upside here. So Joe Adell is that guy that fits the bill. And then Austin goes Mark Canha and Anthony Santander. So
great
Mark
picks.
Canha.
I loved both.
Yeah, Austin, how happy are you with those two picks there?
So I will say I was not going to pick Joe Adell because
don't lie to us. Go ahead.
I was not going to pick Joe Adell because I just he has struggled too much in AAA for me to pick him up at this point. Mark Canha, I really like the A's, the core A's, the Mark Canhas, the Chapmans and the Olsens. I think they're really good. They're gonna give you some good offensive numbers. As long as he keeps getting, he kept getting rotated in with Piscotty and all those guys. So I hope Canha gets some get some.
He's their everyday guy now for sure. In one of those outfield spots, he's going to be an everyday guy.
Oh, that's good. And then Santander. At this point, I needed an Oriole. I hadn't picked up an Oriole, and so I was looking, and I had looked up some of these guys in Santander. I had heard before, and I know he's had some previous success, and his Baseball Savant page looked pretty good. I believe he was above league average on a bunch of his sliders in his Baseball Savant page. So I picked him up, and he had some fantasy success last year. So I figured he'd be a pretty good late round outfield pickup.
He's one of those. He's Eddie Rosario with half of the price. He's a better fantasy player than he is real life. That he has legitimate 30 home run power, 20 home runs in 93 games in 2019, 11 and only 37. And anytime you try and give somebody 550 or 600 plate appearances in Baltimore that has a hit tool like Santander, he doesn't walk a lot, but when he hits the ball, he hits for power. So yeah, I'm all over Santander. I thought those were two really good picks.
And keeping the theme of going for the upside guy, I went ahead and got Dylan Carlson. Even if Santander was available, I was not too attracted to him. Although I was attracted to a couple of the Orioles guy like Austin Hayes. I just decided that Carlson, there's a reason why he's a highly touted prospect for the Cardinals. Solid grades, prospect grades, still a 60 future value, can limit strikeouts. I'm hoping to bank on the 2020 potential that he showed in Double-A for the Cardinals in 2019. And the only thing I don't like is that the Cardinals are pretty loaded at outfield, and I'm hoping that they find every day. Cardinals are also contending, so that's also going to be an issue for me. But I'm hoping that they finally see the light and give this kid a chance to flourish. And just to go on this, he's only 22 years old. So Franchy Cordero now with the Red Sox, currently on the COVID-19 list, whatever that means. And you also got JD Martinez back to back. I don't know. Go ahead, Sean. Take it away.
The fun little Franchy Cordero tidbit. Since 2018, over the last 3 years, there's only 5 players that have a higher average exit velocity than Franchy Cordero. Their names are Aaron Judge, Nelson Cruz, Giancarlo Stanton, Miguel Sano, and Joey Gallo. You could potentially get the Joey Gallo, Miguel Sano type power with the strikeout rate that probably comes with it, but then also chip in like 25 steals because Franchy Cordero is fast. The Red Sox team, I don't think they're going to be like contenders. So they might actually try and do a lot of that small ball stuff. If Franchy Cordero somehow runs into like 500 plate appearances, I think he's a sneaky 2020 threat. I really like him. I also like Hunter Renfrew. I wasn't able to pick him here, but if you look at Hunter Renfrew's spray chart over the last 2 or 3 years and place it at Fenway, this guy was built for it. I mean, he pulls all of his home runs. He's had so many doubles and fly balls in other parks that would be like on the street in Fenway. So I liked him, but wasn't able to pick him. Did pick JD Martinez. He's a good bounce back candidate. I'm not buying really his 2020 at all. He's too good of a hitter to get out on.
Yeah. I was going to pick him if you weren't going to pick him for sure. So moving on, Ryan Mountcastle. So after avoiding all the Orioles players, I went ahead and picked another Orioles hitter. Mountcastle, I think we used to complain about the Orioles farm system not giving us any decent prospects. Well, Mountcastle was, I guess, a light at the end of the dark tunnel that is the Baltimore Orioles farm. So he showed some great promise, great power, great approach for a guy of his age, being raw as he was. So I'm hoping for more of the same. And he qualifies in outfield. I did not know that. I thought he was just DH only, but he qualifies in outfield. Go ahead, Sean.
He is basically what's the other guy's name? Anthony Santander, but with prospect pedigree. I mean, he started off as a shortstop and they realized that wasn't going to work. And then they moved him over to third base and they're like, oh crap, he's really getting bad. And so they moved him over to first base. And I guess he did play some outfield last year. I didn't realize that. Yeah. But he posted his highest walk rate ever, like in his entire professional career in the major leagues last year in his debut. Is he a 333 hitter? I don't know, but he does have a great hit tool. And like I said, with Santander, if you can get a guy in Baltimore, 550 plate appearances, just with how good that park is for hitters, and they have a quality hit tool, you're going to get value. And I feel like guys like Santander or Mountcastle are going to be great values for what you pay for them.
Yeah, batting average for those who are interested, anywhere between 260 and 280. So there's one. Zips has a 288 for the projection. So
Zips has been very aggressive with a lot of the projections this year. I've noticed that.
Yeah,
he had a 398 BABIP in the majors last year, so that's definitely coming down.
Maybe he likes hitting in Buffalo. Who knows? So
Maybe.
Again, the running joke is who's going to pick the Orioles players, and it looks like we went back-to-back Orioles here. Trey Mancini coming back from cancer. You don't see him having ill effects of that, Austin, at all?
I don't think so. I believe in Trey Mancini. I had picked him up on one of my teams last year before he had cancer, which was devastating. I'm glad he's coming back. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that he's at Camden Yards and he was such a good hitter before. I think he will bounce back pretty good. He probably won't be, especially at the beginning, he won't be the Trey Mancini that he was. But once he gets back, I think he could be a pretty good contributor for both the Orioles and a fantasy lineup.
All right, we made it. We're at the pitchers list now. Yes, and with the first pick for the starting pitcher, Austin. The Angels couldn't get him, but he got him. Trevor Bauer. Again, we know who Trevor Bauer is. All right, we know who he is. We don't need to talk too much about him. So, give me one negative about Trevor Bauer there, Austin.
I think he's a little. Last year he was lights out. I think Shane Bieber was a little better, but he was lights out last year. But before then, I think he was a little overhyped. He was not a top echelon pitcher. He was just kind of above average. And I think he was marketed more as a top echelon pitcher. Hopefully he keeps going with the Cy Young-esque year that he had in 2020. But we'll see. Maybe and with the Dodgers and the pressure of the big contract, he might go back to just above average Trevor Bauer that we saw on the Indians. So we'll see.
All right. I mean, it's not a bad pick. I mean, but still, there's I just wanted to challenge you a little bit and say if you can think of something bad. I believe in Trevor Bauer. With the Dodgers and the way they run things, it's a pretty really good pick there. So I went with another Dodgers pitcher and Walker Texas Buehler. I've always been a big fan of Walker Buehler. I like them. I try to get him in my leagues. I know it's a risk naming him as a number one pick. I think Sean mentioned that before the podcast started that he's a guy you're trying to avoid, and it seemed to be a running theme on your what was the thing that you did this morning called
the Potapalooza? Yes,
Potapalooza.
And he was my number one faded pitcher. But I'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah, but I still believe. I think that Dodgers are finally going to get him to let loose and just go as long as he can go. And after winning a World Series, I don't think they have any reason to preserve him for anything at this point. He's 26 years old. He'll be 27 in August. I think the time is now for him to start shining and really showing that potential. And you had some other things to add there, Sean?
It's not a question of Buehler's skill. I mean, it never has been. It's always been a question of health. He's dealt with blister issues on and off all throughout the minors and majors. It's one of those. He only had 8 starts last year, only threw about 30 innings. And we've heard this, we'll just add 100 innings to what their total was last year. If Walker Buehler's only throwing 135 innings and you're drafting him at the end of round 1, beginning of round 2, you're in trouble. And that's why I'm avoiding him mainly in almost all fantasy, except in that relegation league that I was in where we have all the minor league levels. I picked Jacob deGrom in the first round, and then I double barreled and I got Walker Buehler in the second. If Walker Buehler's my SP2, I feel much better about him. But if he's the guy I'm relying on as SP1, I'm worried.
Now, are you talking in terms of redraft leagues, or is that also considering like dynasty and keeper leagues?
Dynasty? I'd be all over him, but mainly in redraft for like 2021.
Okay. Yeah, let's try to make that distinction because if you're in a keeper league, you're kind of forced to get Walker Buehler at that
for sure.
Yeah. So you went with a safer choice in Jack Flaherty, mainly because let me ask you, Sean, if Walker Buehler was available and Jack Flaherty wasn't, would you still avoid Walker Buehler in this
redraft? Or
no, right here in this exercise. If I pick Jack
I probably would have picked Buehler.
Okay, just making sure. So Jack Flaherty, but he is a safer choice. Also on a contending team, has shown to have a really bulldog ability as a
his 2020 ace is misleading because you look at him. He had 9 starts, a 4.9 ERA. 22 runs given up in 40 innings. But when you take out one start, his ERA was like beneath 2 or right at 2. He gave up 9 of his 22 earned runs in one game. So him and Lance McCullers and one other starting pitcher were kind of in that same. The one start just ruined everything for him. And so if you have a full season, 1 9-run start, hurts you, but you can recover from it. If you have 7 or 8 starts, you can't recover from it. So,
and then let's see here. Clayton Kershaw, which to my surprise is still considered a top 10 starting pitcher. Clayton Kershaw is still top 10 pitcher in your book, Sean?
He's right there at the 10, 11, 12. He's definitely fading out of it, but at the same time, he's only 32.
It's an old 32. Come on.
He's 32. His back's 42 and his arm's 52.
Thank you.
But he knows how to spin the ball. He's just at this point he's just pitching. He used to be able to be that perfect finesse guy. He could power it up, but now it's just like I don't know how to describe it, but he's getting the results done. He's going to be pitching on a Dodgers team that's going to win a bunch of games. So yeah, I'm all over that. Especially since I couldn't get the 2 elite guys. I'll take that duo over having either of those 2, Bauer and Buehler.
He's still SP1 for real life Dodgers. You mentioned he's like maybe 12th overall in terms of SP. If Clayton Kershaw's 12th overall SP, he's still a fantasy SP1. Does that make sense to you guys that Clayton Kershaw is still seen as an SP number 1, or am I just overthinking this?
I think people think he's no longer an SP1, but it's funny if you look at his ERAs since 2015, 2.1, 1.6, 2.3, 2.7, 3.0, and 2.1. And we're acting like he's he has fallen off some cliff. Like, obviously he's not the Clayton Kershaw of before, but
right.
Damn,
no, the results are there. The results are there for sure.
I think he's cursed by the fact that he is Clayton Kershaw. He had that 1.6 ERA and he was unhittable for the longest time. And now, he's starting to get a little hittable, even though he's still producing a 2.3 ERA. Everybody still sees him as the 1.6, the 1.6 ERA, Clayton Kershaw. So no, I think he's still a SP1.
In fantasy,
in
right?
fantasy. In fantasy.
Okay. So I just got to say this, that I was very happy with my pitching staff when it was all said and done. I got the guys that I really wanted, and including a couple of Angels guys. So I felt like I just snatched them away from the Angels fan, although Austin did say that he was not looking to get any Angels pitchers. But Dylan Bundy, man, I've always liked Dylan Bundy, even when he was with the Orioles as a prospect. Then he gets to the Orioles and gets shellacked because of just how god-awful that ballpark is to pitching. But I had a feeling that as soon as he escaped from Baltimore and gets to the sunny sea level that is California, in this regard, Orange County, that he would come back and show that he could still be a serviceable starting pitcher, and that's exactly what he did. So I'm excited to have him on my team again, even in this exercise, as I expect more of the same. He's only 28 years old, so it's time for him to make up for lost time. I like this pickup from Austin, though. Julio Urias, it looks like he has a starting rotation spot with the Dodgers for once in his life. He's not going to be this Terry Mulholland type pitcher. He's going to SP number 4, according to Roster Resource. I guess any concerns that the Dodgers might change their mind there, Austin?
I think with the fact that the Dodgers like to play around with their lineup so much, and their pitching rotation, and they know that he can go back into the bullpen, that they may pull him back into the bullpen later in the year for whatever reason. It'll be some weird, stupid reason. But that may happen. But you know what? I will say that Julio Urias, up until the 2020 playoffs, I was not impressed by Julio Urias. I didn't think he was all that special. I thought he was just kind of average until I really got to watch him in the 2020 playoffs, and especially in the World Series. I was impressed by how he was able to handle, especially with as young as he is, how he was able to handle all that pressure, and he was able to outpitch some of those other top echelon pitchers. So, I've really changed my mind about Julio Urias, and I was really excited to pick him up in my lineup.
Quick, Felipe. Julio Urias debuted in 2016. How old is he?
He's Oh, I know because I have it in front of me.
Oh,
but
boo! I was hoping you would.
It just so happened, but I think I would have guessed 24 years old anyway.
Yeah. It's crazy that he is only 24. He's one of my favorite pitchers. I think he's actually one that they'll lean on more. If they need to lean on a starting pitcher in 2021, I think it's going to be Iglesias rather than Buehler or Kershaw. I think he might be the guy that gets the most innings on that team, aside from Trevor Bauer.
And you know the best part about Julio Urias is, right?
What?
He's Mexican.
Yeah.
Adam Ottavino, going now. He's a Red Sox, no longer a Yankee. You still believe in Ottavino to be the premier late inning relief pitcher that he showed over the past there, Austin?
Well, at this point in the exercise, I needed a Red Sox. I had not picked up any Red Sox, and he was really the only one that I really was looking at, and in terms of pitching, that I was really looking at. I wasn't really all that high on Eovaldi. I wasn't high on any of the other pitchers besides Ottavino. He has had consistency issues. He's very streaky. He can be the premier reliever that we've seen him to be, but I know last year, even though it was a small sample size, he didn't have that great of a year with the Yankees. So, I mean, he could be. We'll just have to see if they pitch him to more. If he gets matched up with more lefties, I think he'll have a pretty good season. But with that short porch out in left field at the Monster, he may have some problems down there in Boston.
By the way, for those who can't see, we went back-to-back starting pitchers, and now we're gonna pick our one relief pitcher in the middle, like kind of a sandwich kind of thing. Actually, we're gonna go. Yeah, we got a sandwich relief pitcher here. I went with Trevor Rosenthal, who again, excited that he was still available to me, even with the first go round of relief pitchers. I think he's the best relief pitcher on this list. I know Kenley Jansen is around, but we've seen Kenley Jansen not. Let's put it this way: it was Julio Urias shutting the door for the Dodgers World Series, and not Kenley Jansen. So that's all you got to know about that. But as Sean knows, we talked about Rosenthal ad nauseum in season 1 of the podcast. I was excited that he was getting a second chance. I've always liked him with the Cardinals. Some just injuries and just inconsistent play took a toll, but once he got to the Royals healthy for the first time, lighting up the gun at 97 miles an hour, he gets to the Padres, and I told Sean, hey, this is going to be your closer. I don't care who else. I don't care that Drew Pomeranz is there. I don't care that Emilio Pagan is there. Rosenthal has to be your closer, and he ended up being the closer, and now he's going to be having the sole possession of the Oakland Athletics closing job, so I could not be happier when getting Trevor Rosenthal. And, of course, Sean does get Kenley Jansen. I don't know, Sean. Austin, go ahead.
So just to plug in for those of you that are listening these guys know what they're talking about, because last year I was struggling with a little bit of my pitching, especially my relief pitching. And, I was watching the podcast, and these guys were big on Trevor Rosenthal. Go pick up Trevor Rosenthal. And I went and picked up Trevor Rosenthal on about 3 of my teams, and he did really well. So I was really happy to pick him up. And I remember Felipe going, I'm going to pick him up in all of my leagues. So if you can, and as soon as I heard that, even while they were podcasting, I picked him up while they were podcasting.
See, Sean, so you can't complain about me. At least I would have waited 5 minutes after the show was over.
No. See,
there's a grace period.
You were doing the show. I was just watching, so I picked him up.
Well, thank you for the kind words, man. I mean, this is all about. We're trying to help each other and share our expertise. I know most people are guarded with their information, but now we're putting it out there. We tell you, even people in our league, we tell you, hey, this is who we're going to pick up. I got several people wanting my spreadsheets. Here's who I'm looking to plan, because I know it doesn't matter, because I'm going to pick up who I'm going to pick up no matter what. So so thank you for the kind words. I really do appreciate that. So we move on to Kenley Jansen there, Sean.
His results are still really good, except if you avoid every single red flag known to man. This is like looking in the ocean at the beach, seeing somebody flailing and yelling shark, and then you go, I want to go for a swim anyway. And that's what it's like drafting Kenley Jansen. And I picked him in the relegation draft, and I put up like all these red flag things. You actually see his average pitch velocity on his fastballs goes down, and while that's going down, his expected WOBA or his WOBA against on fastballs is going in the complete opposite direction. So as he's losing velo, hitters are starting to hit it more. For his luck, I mean, that cutter is great for him. And if you wouldn't believe, if you looked at the Stephon sliders, it's just, oh my God, you cross your fingers and pray. And, Dave Roberts said that Kenley Jansen has earned the right to be the closer and that going into 2021, he will be the closer for the Dodgers. So,
okay. I mean,
you have to pick the closer for the best team in baseball. And
but
there is a lot of risk.
You talk about fading pitchers. This is my fading relief pitcher right here is Kenley Jansen. I want no part of him at all. I mean, the Dodgers are just loaded everywhere in the bullpen with a lot of closer.
It ends up with Brusdar Gratterall, I think, who wasn't picked. I was shocked by that. I meant to.
I was going to do it, but I changed my mind at the end. Go ahead, Austin. You were going to say something?
I was surprised that Roberts came out and said Kenley Jansen is still the closer. I thought for sure he was going to give it to Gratterall and make Jansen the setup man because Jansen is just he's not a closer anymore.
It's the last year of his contract. I think he will be forced to accept a lesser role or move on to greener pastures. I don't even want
him in the 7th or 8th inning.
I avoided him like the plague. I don't want him because he's just too inconsistent. So.
And then, Sean, you went with John Means. Is that your Orioles representative here?
That is my Orioles representative. I ended up picking another one. He was the one who I really wanted, though. And he's someone, he was their all-star representative in 2019. He came in second in Rookie of the Year to Yordan Alvarez. He was kind of, an afterthought. But he performed admirably, especially when you consider where he pitches. And then one thing that nobody talked about, because I think he had a late start. He made 10 starts in 2020, but nobody talked about his fastball velocity. He went from just kind of, throwing it up there, almost a soft tossing lefty. His average four seam in 2019 was 91.7. In 2020, it consistently sat at 94, 95, 96. And when you combine his fastball ability, which has good spin rates, and he just kind of keeps hitters off balance, good changeup, good curveball. He has the complete arsenal, which I always like. I think he's good. He's underrated, and I think he's probably the best player on that team.
I mean, yeah, I'm avoiding all Orioles starting pitchers in this. I don't want any part of it.
I had to pick one, right?
Yeah, well, that's why you do it early, with Adley Rutschman or Ryan Mountcastle or Anthony Santander, Trey Mancini. That's the time to do it, brother.
I mean, I almost did take Mountcastle and Santander at util, and then I doubled back.
Jesus Luzardo, man, I am a big fan. I love him. I don't know what happened last year, but I'm going to ride that train until the wheels are completely falling off. I mean, the fastball, the slider combination are just too damn good. The changeup is still a work in progress from what I remember, but there's just too much upside to pass up on. I thought you were going to get him, but thankfully you went the Orioles route.
I mean, how many innings is he going to throw? That's my worry there. I trust Means with some innings. Luzardo, I think he throws 130 that's like his 90th percentile outcome is 130 innings. Like I can't see him throwing it that much, like at all.
Well, he's still only 23 years old. That the upside is still there. I still believe him. He's listed as a number 2 starting pitcher for the A's at the moment. And 151 is the innings pitch that is being projected on the roster resource page.
I'm taking the under.
Hey, man. That's what you're chasing, right? You're chasing that, especially after, in the middle of your rotation. You could do a lot worse, like getting Frankie Montes, who's coming back from was he suspended for PED use last year or no? I don't remember.
That was in 2019, no?
Yeah. I mean, I kid about Frankie Montes. I kid, but he's currently on the COVID-19 list. But other than that, Austin, what do you see from Frankie Montes for 21?
Yeah, he got busted for PEDs, but I still see an upside with Montes. He's still got a pretty good fastball. And I think the fact that he's in that wide and expansive, Ricky Henderson field or whatever they call it now. I think the fact that he's in that really big ballpark, I think is really good for him. I think there's still some upside to Frankie Montas. I'm not gonna sleep on him yet. I think he's still got something left.
My biggest plus for Frankie Montas is in this offseason, he's hooked up with Codify Incorporated Baseball. They were the ones who started doing a lot of the heat mapping, game planning for guys like Liam Hendricks, who Liam Hendricks has personally credited with really turning his career around. And they have something like 30 or 40 clients now. Marcus Stroman is one. They got a lot of them. Lucas Giolito is another. but Frankie Montas just joined with them this year. They're hoping they even put out a tweet about like him throwing his splitter more, which was something he actually threw less in 2020, even though it was a great pitch for him in 2019. So if they can get him to throw that splitter more, I think he's going to do really well. Just needs to worry about the walks, which has always been a worry with him, is his command and walk rate.
And then knowing that there's an Angels fan on board, the fact that I went with Jesus Luzardo just shows how much I love Jesus Luzardo. So because I really wanted Andrew Heaney, and I'm thinking, well, I can't. I wanted Dylan Bundy and Andrew Heaney and this exercise, but I can't have it all, right? And then Austin picks Griffin Canning. Like, yes, he picks the Angels player that I did not want. But go ahead. Why Griffin Canning over some of the other Angels pitchers that were available?
So I like Heaney and I like Canning. I like them both, but I feel like Canning is a little more consistent than Heaney is. Heaney, I think a lot of Angel fans, and I could be wrong, but I know this Angel fan thought that Heaney could really turn into a really good, really solid 2-1 pit, SP1, SP2 in real life for them. But he just hasn't turned that corner. He's not consistent. I feel like Canning is a little more consistent. You're going to get a little bit more strikeouts out of Canning. He throws his fastball a little bit harder. He's got the same problem as Heaney does. He's not consistent. Sometimes he'll go out and it's a great performance and he'll go out and be lights out, and then the next time he'll get blown up. So you never know what you're going to get out of him. But I do like Griffin Canning. I think, and I've read a couple articles that have said he's poised for a breakout season this year. He's been impressing at spring training, but again, half the players at spring training are impressing at spring training.
I like that phrase. That's a good soundbite right there.
So, but I like Griffin Canning. I think he's going to be pretty good, and I think eventually he will probably pass up Heaney. He won't ever be an ace, but I think he will pass up Heaney. I like him over Heaney.
Sorry, I thought Sean had something to add there.
Yeah, I don't like Heaney and Griffin Canning, and a guy who didn't get picked here, who I also like, Patrick Sandoval, another Angels pitcher. They suffer from the same damn thing. They have great secondaries for Canning. It's his curveball and changeup. Sandoval's got a great curveball and slider, or curveball changeups, either same combo. But their fastballs just get absolutely poopied on. Griffin Canning in 2020 did get a little unlucky with his four-seamer. Had a expected batting average of 235. Their actual batting average against it was 305. So, a little bit of bad luck there, perhaps.
They have a habit of leaving their fastballs right over,
like right in the middle of the plate. And they have such great, secondary stuff that Sandoval, I think it's an even more extreme issue because he doesn't throw as hard as Canning. If they can just figure out, and if there's going to be a team that does it, it's going to be the Angels, because that's how they really unlocked Dylan Bundy. Dylan Bundy, he started throwing his curveball or his slider, that was his primary pitch now. And he started pitching batters backwards. Dylan Bundy was leading off at bats with his curveball. He led the league in curveball percentage and 0-0 counts. Nobody was throwing as many. And that was because Dylan Bundy, instead of throwing his fastballs for strikes, he was using his breaking stuff for strikes. And then he was sneaking up on hitters with a fastball. And even though he was only barely cracking 90 on the gun, these guys would be late on it because all they see is slider, changeup, curve, sliders, change. And then next thing you know, a 91-mile-an-hour fastball looks like Randy Johnson coming at you. So if there is a team that can figure it out for Griffin Canning or Patrick Sandoval, I think it could be the Angels.
Well, let me tell you why I like Andrew Heaney, right? He's since coming to the Angels, he's still shown that he can consistently strike out people. I know the advanced peripheral ERAs are not very good or whatever, but I still believe in him. He's gonna get the pitches. The game starts. The only thing that sucks about him is that they've got a 6-man rotation going. But for the Angels, this is as good as it gets for them. He's established at the age of 30 years old. He'll be 30. Yeah, he'll be 30 years old this year. Yeah. So he has that going for him. He has that craftsmanship and the experience and the veteran guile. But here's what I like about him. Last year, in terms of outside the swing percentage, I'm always looking for outside the swing percentage from Fangraphs to show how much they're inducing swings out, especially getting guys to chase outside the zone. Haney was 14th overall among all qualifying pitchers. That's in front of Luis Castillo, Carlos Carrasco, Max Scherzer, Zach Gallen, a who's who of pitching aces in fantasy baseball. So I like that. I don't like the soft tossing, 91 mile per hour fastball, but guess what? He's left-handed. Most of them are soft tossing 91 mile per hour lefties anyway. So there's a lot to like about him. And I was glad that, I know Canning might have a little slightly more potential, but Haney is just a safer floor for me, even though he's only projected to get 168 innings pitched according to roster resource. I'll take it.
With Haney, I think it is, we should mention, he completely ditched the sinker, according to Baseball Savant, from what I'm looking at. He was throwing, sinker, curveball, changeup. That's it. He ditched that for a four-seamer this year, which actually has some pretty good spin on it. So if you look at the pitch similarity, you see both 2020 Matthew Boyd and 2019 Matthew Boyd, Patrick Corbin, James Paxton, David Peterson, all lefties, all have, pretty good upside. Boyd has a little bit of a lower floor, and I think he might fit in with Boyd.
And the last thing I'm going to say about Haney really quick, if I may sneak this in, I mentioned the outside of swing percentage. I know that he had a 12.4 swinging strike rate, Haney did, which was good enough for 16th overall among all qualifying starting pitchers. And again, ahead of guys like Zach Gallen, Herman Marquez, Kyle Hendricks, Jose Barrios. So all these other guys, Haney's right up there. So when he was available, I snatched him up like a hyena snatches up a dead corpse. So,
I do like Heaney's curveball.
He's always had a great breaking ball.
Yeah, he's always got a great curveball. I don't know. I like Canning a little better than I like Heaney. I like them both, but I like Canning just a tad better.
And look what happened here. Back to back Angels pitchers with Shohei Ohtani, the dark horse, the white buffalo. Is this the year, Sean? Is this the year?
Oh God, those tweets from the last 2 days, first it was,
he was
barely cracking 90. And then they heard he was up to 97 in his next bullpen. And then they said in the bullpen after that, he was touching triple digits. Oh God. They pulled me back in like that. That's it. It's that all over again. Pitcher Ohtani is great when healthy. Obviously, he hasn't been healthy as a pitcher in a while. But even if he's a designated hitter only, and I'm picking him, to try and get him both ways here, he might be the sneakiest 2020 candidate in all of baseball that nobody talks about because he's, a pitcher or whatever.
Yeah. I just want you to know, Sean, I was just giggling to myself, grabbing my popcorn and seeing all the comments on Twitter.
No, we don't share that. That was a non-league strategy meeting.
No, I'm in there watching regardless. Jordan Hicks, back from Tommy John surgery, correct?
Yes. He sat out 2020 because he did have some pre-existing conditions. I believe he was diabetic. Right. I'm not really sure who's going to be the closer. I'm not sure if the Cardinals know who's going to be the closer.
Nobody knows.
They have a lot of options. They have Hicks, Gallegos. John Gant is a forgotten man that we haven't mentioned or won't mention on this list, but has been very good. He could end up as a starter. He could end up as a reliever. They got a lot of options. I think Jordan Hicks is the go-to simply because of one, his stuff, and two, they might appreciate Gallegos in other roles, such as like a fireman going in with men on base already. Something that you probably don't want Hicks to do with some iffy command stuff that he usually has.
And then, I was worried that I was not going to get Tony Gonsolin after, Sean getting back-to-back picks here. And by the way, we're back to relief pitcher. So Sean went with Jordan Hicks, but Tony Gonsolin was available. So I'm out here dancing like, yes, I got yet another pitcher that I really, really covet and I really, really want. The only thing I don't like about Tony Gonsolin is that he's 27 years old. He was supposed to be a hotshot prospect, and because he's with the Dodgers, all those years went by him, and now he's 27 years old, and he's kind of stuck in that bullpen as a long relief guy. But we saw what he did last year when he had to do the whole piggyback thing in the shortened 2020 season, and I just think the world of him. I think he's ready to. If he were in any other team, we would be talking about him being a very good pickup at starting pitcher. But unfortunately, he's with the Dodgers, so we do what we can get for him. And Tony Gonsolin, I think, is a decent relief pitcher, especially in the categories leagues and leagues that do holds and leagues that are, like you, Sean, like you always mentioned, sparks. We're always looking for sparks. So, speaking of Gallegos, Austin is also putting money on Giovanni Gallegos to win that the closer's role in St. Louis. Is that correct there, Austin?
I think so. When you're looking at his Baseball Savant page, I think out of the 4 eligible people that are probably in line for the closers, you got Reyes, Gallegos, Miller, and Hicks. I think Gallegos is probably a little bit better than Hicks, and I think if I remember correctly, Gallegos has got a little bit more command than Hicks does, and even not, I feel like they may, the Cardinals may do something like a platoon closer type situation, and Gallegos can get you some saves, and yeah, I think he can get you some strikeouts and some saves. So I think he might be a pretty good pickup for fantasy lineup.
And then Sergio Romo, back-to-back relief pitchers we're doing here. So Sergio Romo, go ahead and talk about him for a little bit.
So I've always liked Sergio Romo, even back in the Giants days. He was good with the Marlins. He had a good season last year. Obviously I believe he's in his 40s. He's not the Sergio Romo he was with the Giants, but he still can go out there and get you some outs in the back end. He is on the A's now, and he's projected, according to Roster Resource, to be the setup man in the 7th inning. So he's supposed to be the 7th inning man. But I think he's still a pretty good candidate to get some outs. He's still got some pretty good breaking pitches. I still think he's got 1 or 2 years left, and I think he's a good late round pickup if you're looking for a relief pitcher in the late rounds.
He's had 50 saves over the last 3 years. He had 5 in 2020. And that was with a team that had Trevor May, Tyler Duffy. Obviously, the A's went out and spent a bunch of money on Trevor Rosenthal. But Trevor Rosenthal is no sure thing. I mean, he was really good with the Cardinals, and then he was really bad after Tommy John. And now he's really good again, maybe. I think Sergio Romo's a under-the-radar guy that could really, vulture some saves. I think he's going to do really well in Oakland. I think that's a good ballpark for him. He's always done really well limiting hard contact. So I do like him, especially in a save holds league.
And just out of curiosity, since 2017, Sergio Romo has thrown 59.3% of his pitches have gone for sliders, which puts him number 2 behind Matt Whistler. So I was hoping I can call him the human slider, but I guess Sergio Romo is not the human slider. That distinction goes to Matt Whistler.
He's slider senior. Matt Whistler can be slider junior.
You mean Senor Slider, right? Because he's Mexican. Also Mexican.
That's a good one. There you go.
Oh, well, that's the advantages of being bilingual. Learn 2 or 3 languages, guys. Tanner Scott. It's another guy I've always liked for the Orioles. I've just been kind of waiting, and I think now's the time to grab him. I know Sean went with Hunter Harvey, so we went back-to-back Orioles here. Not that I'm expecting Harvey to, well, maybe I am for a little bit, for him to kind of blow it as the closer, the penciled-in closer. But I believe in Tanner Scott. The walks are a little worrisome, but the 97-mile-per-hour fastball is just something that pops out on his Fangraphs page. And most importantly, if I remember correctly, he swings bats, or he makes bats. He swinging strike percentage is what I'm trying to say, 13.9%. Outside the zone swinging strike rate, little worrisome. But if he's able to, figure that out and get more people to chase more of his pitches, I think we have something here. And I just wanted to be cute and pick another Orioles pitcher.
I think he's so good. I've been waiting on him for so long.
Yeah,
I don't have Hunter Harvey in my 30-team dynasty, but I do have Tanner Scott. And I think he could be, they had Zach Britton as a closer for a long time. Why can't Tanner Scott be their closer for a long time?
Yeah. That's what we're hoping for, right? But you went with Hunter Harvey. I guess if Tanner Scott was available, would you have gotten
I
Hunter
probably
Harvey
would have
here?
picked Tanner Scott over Hunter Harvey. I do like both of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to be, they could use Scott as a fireman. They could use Harvey as the fireman. And I don't know which one's going to get the bona fide closer's role. I don't think there will be one. I just think they're going to go with who's available that day. What does the opponent's lineup look like? Just stuff like that. So,
all right. And then we go back to starting pitchers. Garrett Richards, who we talked about earlier when we went on Facebook Live. Just Garrett Richards, an old Angels pitcher. Is this finally the year that he puts it together, Sean?
Well, you say put it all together. What would you say his career ERA is?
I guess 3.79. I guess I don't know.
That's as close as 3.6, and his numbers for his career are actually much better than you would ever anticipate. Last year he ended up getting bounced to the bullpen towards the end of the year with San Diego. which is a spot where if he doesn't work out in Boston's rotation, I think he's going to be an elite reliever. He's always gotten pretty good spin rates, just overall spin rates on both his fastball and his curveball. But if you look at his active spin, it's probably not as good as it could be, especially on the four-seamer. He gets a lot of spin on it, but it's not all the spin that you want. The curveball's still great, but he's starting to ditch it in favor of a slider, which has done really well the last 2 years. The stuff's still there. And
it's always been there.
Yeah, and even after Tommy John and the multiple injuries, it's great. Your worst case scenario is he becomes Boston's closer. He's still fantasy relevant. Best case scenario, he's probably their best starting pitcher next to Nate Eovaldi until Chris Sale comes back, and you get some wins. I don't see a losing situation here for him.
And then Dustin May, I picked them up. I got the two Dodgers pitchers that I really wanted, so I'm happy that came about. Dustin May is another highly touted prospect. If Dustin May was in any other team, like, I don't know, the Braves, for example, we'd be talking about Dustin May being a sneaky pick or a must-have pick in the late stages of the draft. So we saw what he did last year in the playoffs and in the regular season for the Dodgers, and I'm very happy with the back-to-back Tony Gonsolin, Dustin May in my starting rotation. And then, Jesus. Okay, so Josiah Gray. So, Austin, who just disappeared on me. Where'd he go?
Oh,
he's back.
Is he?
Anyway,
okay, there we go.
So anyway, I go Gonsolin, I go Dustin May, and then Austin goes on that Dodgers pitching prospect train, and Josiah Gray. Tell me a little something, because we're running out of time here. Josiah Gray, Austin, why him? Austin,
so Josiah Gray, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. So Josiah Gray, really, I feel like we had ran out of pitchers that I think could make that could be fantasy relevant. So I kind of went with prospect that could maybe come up this year and be relevant maybe later in the year. Josiah Gray is the 58th rated prospect in the pipeline right now. He's in the Dodger system. He's a converted shortstop, going 7-mile-an-hour fastball. I believe he has a pretty good slider from what I read. He's got a pretty decent slider. He's got a changeup that he's working on. And Roster Resource has him coming in maybe mid-2021. So I think he could be a good maybe spot starter for the reliever later in the year if they, So I think he could be a relevancy contributor maybe later in the year, not at the beginning of the year. He could probably be a good late season pickup if he gets called up to the majors.
And then we finished off with relief pitchers, final round. Let's quickly move along here as we're really going over here. Mike Mayers, what's that? Angels? Yes, he's with the Angels.
Yes.
I like the projections that are coming on board. What do you see for Mike Mayers for 21 there, Austin?
So Mike Mayers, I'm really impressed with Mike Mayers. I tried. At first, I was not sure about picking up any Angels relievers because what we talked about earlier, they're good at having one good year, 1 or 2 good years, and then they disappear. But Mike Mayers, even with his tenure with the Cardinals before he came to the Angels, he has steadily been getting better as the years have gone on. And this year or last year with the Angels, it seems like he really turned it on. Had a 2.1 ERA. Really good sliders on Baseball Savant. He does. I think he's poised to have another good season in the back end of the bullpen there for the Angels. He's slated to be their setup guy, their 8th inning guy. But I mean, if Iglesias doesn't work out, which I'm not sure if Iglesias will work out or not, who knows? We'll have to see. They may put him back there. To get some saves. We'll just have to see what happens. But Mayers is my exception with the Angels. I think he could have back-to-back really good seasons.
That's good stuff. You guys will notice Ryzelle Iglesias was not on any of this list. So that just goes to tell you how much we have faith in Ryzelle Iglesias into 2021. Finally, my last guy, relief pitcher, Alex Reyes. Why not? Let's give it one more chance.
We'll
one more
never
go.
quit him.
Well, I can't. I wasn't gonna. I didn't come into this trying to look for a Cardinals relief pitcher to pick. And then there's Alex Reyes still available. Like, all right, fine. I mean, Jordan Hicks is already off the board. Giovanni Gallegos is off the board. Might as well go for the 22nd relief pitcher going for that closer's role in St. Louis. So Reyes, former highly touted prospect. Everybody wanted him at one point. 100-mile-per-hour fastball at one point. Injuries, inconsistencies has derailed his career. But let's give it one more chance for Alex Reyes. Do you agree with that assessment there, Sean?
Yeah, I'm willing to. I can't quit him. I just can't.
Yeah, we'll never let you go. We'll never let you go. And we did with Melvin, we did a Dominican Republican thing, and Alex Reyes is Dominican. So there you go. Everything's connected. Finally, now you try to sneak one in on me, but no, you forget that I control the spreadsheet. But Hirokazu Sagwara, why him, and where does he play? Because I haven't even heard of him.
He just signed with the Red Sox. He's been a reliever in Japan for a long time, and he's had varied levels of success. He's been really good. He's been kind of so-so. He's been bad, but he's been better more than he has been bad. And they already said that they're looking to use him in those last 2 or 3 innings of the game. So that instantly makes your ears perk up like, oh, this guy might get saves. Especially because I don't believe in Adam Ottavino anymore. He's not getting whiffs. And if he's not getting whiffs, he's basically useless.
What about Matt Barnes? Do you believe in Matt Barnes or Ryan?
I don't think the Red Sox believe in Matt Barnes. I think they did when they traded Brandon Workman, and then Matt Barnes just doesn't have him and Ottavino. Kind of they walk too many guys, and they don't really like that.
And they still got Ryan Brazier too. So
I didn't want Hirokazu Saramura. Sorry, I misspelled it. Are you fixed? I misspelled it. Somebody did. I wanted to move Garrett Richards to RP because he is RP eligible, and then I wanted to use Nate Eovaldi in my SP slot, but Felipe is the fun police, and he didn't let me do that.
Hirokazu Sakamura. No, man, you got to pick one, not 2 or 3 in one cell block here. But that's it.
Or pick a player and then pick somebody else. Austin.
Like he mentioned, his.
I didn't pick 2, so
take that, Sean. And like Austin mentioned to us, his finger was still on the chess piece. So
okay, finger was still on it.
So we'll go with that. But that's it, man. Good stuff as always. 60 players, another 60 players down. Listen, if you guys aren't getting your fill of fantasy baseball or just player evaluations on this podcast, we don't know how much more we can give you or how much more we can tell you. And we're unleashing secrets. We're telling you what's going on. And we're having fun trying to figure out where these 6 teams are going to round out for the upcoming 2021 season. Obviously the Dodgers are loaded. There was a lot of Dodgers talk, and then maybe the Orioles are finally seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. The Cardinals are maybe they're not as that NL Central crown is not ready for them to just take over. The Angels are still the Angels. They have some interesting pieces, but it's still the Angels. The A's are not as strong as everybody thinks they are. The Astros, I thought, Sean, Astros, when I was doing this last night, I thought the Astros still have a better starting rotation, much better starting rotation than the Oakland Athletics. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah.
So for the AL West is not for them to just take over. And the Red Sox, it's an interesting team, but their bullpen issues and their pitching issues are just too much to overcome. So interesting, Austin. Thank you for showing up. I don't know. You have any projects you want to brag about while you still have here? You want to plug about here?
Well, I'll be on Dong City tomorrow. We'll be talking about the best baseball movies of all time. We're starting our bracket round of 32. We're going to break it down to 16. So I'm part of a 5-person panel.
Nice.
So make sure to tune into Dong City, and we're going to talk about probably all of your guys' favorite baseball movies, from The Sandlot, Trouble with the Curve, Pride of the Yankees, Moneyball. I've been watching all kinds of baseball movies out the wazoo, so I'm in the baseball mood now. So
nice. Lightning round, Sean. Let's play a little game here. Lightning round, best movie, and then I want a dark horse. So just don't give me a reason why. Just give me the movie. Austin, let's start with you since you're fresh here. Best movie, baseball movie of all time in your book.
In my book, my favorite baseball movie is probably The Sandlot.
And your dark horse.
That's just always been a favorite of mine.
And give me a dark horse.
A dark horse for this tournament will probably be Major League 2, maybe, because I know that's very popular amongst a lot of fans.
It is.
I'm not necessarily a fan of Major League 2, but Major League 2 might be a dark horse.
It's a sneaky pick. It's a sneakily decent, good movie. And Sean, give me your favorite and your dark horse.
Favorite is probably gonna be Sandlot as well. Dark horse, I can't quit Moneyball. It varies in so many different ways from real life in the book. But I thought the acting, both Pitt and Jonah Hill, I loved in that movie. It was awesome.
That's a good one. But I could tell you guys are mid-90s babies because you guys keep picking The Sandlot. I'm picking a real movie. All right. It's Major League. The original is raw, gritty, as real as baseball is going to get. And it makes the Cleveland baseball team look like they could be something. And it was done before Jacobs Field was even existed. Go ahead, Austin. You got something to say?
So I do have the bracket up at the moment. Sandlot. No. I gotta orient myself here.
No, you know what, Austin?
Major League.
Save that for tomorrow because I don't want to.
We don't want to spoil it.
Dong City cherry there, but I just wanted to.
I mean, I have the bracket up just who they're going against. I don't know who wins what. We have.
No. You guys have 2 hours to discuss that tomorrow. I just wanted a quick little teaser here. But my dark horse, League of Their Own. If Major League doesn't win it, I would love to see a League of Their Own. I think it's a fantastic
That's a great
movie.
I love that movie.
Love that movie, and I just watched it recently. It just gets better with age. So anyway, that's me. That's Austin from California. Sean over there producing the show. Thank you so much for coming in and on the special time, and we will see you next week.